Welcome to Nevertheless, a show dedicated to organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. Today, you will discover how to discern your essence and live powerful.
Hello and welcome to Nevertheless, a show for organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. My name is Bidemi Mark-Mordi. How are you today? In those days in Nigeria when we used to watch the news line at 9 p.m. every Sunday night, the anchor then, that's Mr. Frank Oliza of blessed memory, used to open his show by saying, "Good evening, welcome to Newsline. Do you know where your children are?" I'm not going to ask you if you know where your children are, but I want to ask you, do you know what your power is for now? Last week we took a look at how people misuse their power, how people take their power and plug it into things that they have no business plugging their power into. And a few people actually did respond. Well, quite a number of people did respond to say that yes, they enjoyed the show and they have started to think or rethink how they are deploying their power or their DNA or their personal legend or whatever. So if you had listened to that show, or if you have not listened to that show, you need to go back and download it and listen to it. Honestly, power is a very pertinent subject in society today. We've seen how abuse of power has made nations spiral to almost nothing. But with God, if you understand why God endowed you the way He's endowed you, I promise that you will be one of those few for whom they will say that they use their power well. So I'm trusting God that you are not one of the ones for whom they will say power corrupted or absolute power corrupted absolutely. So welcome to the show. My name is Bidemi Mark-Mordi and it's a very, it's a cool Wednesday afternoon in Lagos. It rained a lot this morning and because of that everywhere is cool, which is a good thing for us because if you know anything about Lagos and Nigeria, it's humid and hot. Anyhow, today's show is going to be one that you would enjoy because right now I'm in a season that I need to talk to you about. So don't go away. When I come back, I'll be talking to you about today's show and what it is, the value that it brings to your journey as an organic leader. Don't go away. I'll be right back.
Are you frustrated and tired of life? Do you feel trapped in life's maze and don't seem to find your way? Or are you passionate about your purpose and destiny and want to find out more? Then get a copy of DNA. DNA, Destiny Navigational Application, is a book written by Bidemi Mark-Mordi, where she coaches you to distill the answer to the cry of purpose, mandate, and significance. She teaches you how to discern your essence, discover your God-given mandate, deploy power, and demonstrate dominion. Get a copy of Destiny Navigational Application from any bookstore near you or call 234-813-360-2883 or send an email to bidemi@bidemimarkmordi.com to place your order now.
Welcome back. The show is still the Nevertheless show and my name is Bidemi. Like I said before the break, I was asking you if you knew what your power is for. Now today's show maybe just slightly stretching the power issue, but more in the place of talking about distractions. When you are gifted or you are called or you have a calling or you know what your purpose is and you begin to drive it, one of the things that stand out is the fact that you become, especially when you do your work well, your demand increases. People begin to want you to come and do stuff for them. and the more people that want you to come and do stuff for them, I have found out the more the things that you would usually do by yourself in-house for yourself and the things that you do might begin to suffer if you don't have the right structures and systems in place. So today we're looking at the issue of distractions. God idea or good idea? That's what I want us to take a look at, because everything, the Bible says that everything is lawful. All things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. And all things are lawful for me, but all things don't edify. That's the King James version of 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 20. In another version, it says everything is permissible, but not everything is helpful. Everything is permissible, but not everything builds up. So when we're talking about distraction, what is a distraction really? What is a distraction? In my layman language, a distraction is anything that takes your focus away from the goal that you have been pursuing and you have worked hard to achieve. Anything that takes you or derails you from pursuing what originally you thought was important to you is a distraction. Now, when we talk about distraction, one distraction that is easy to point out are those things that don't actually add value. And so we take a look at them. When we hear distraction, we say, oh no, I cannot be distracted because I know what it is that I'm good at and I know what I'm called to do. So I will not be putting my hands in all the things that I'm not called to do. Therefore, I cannot be distracted. Well, that's one way to look at it. How about those things that are equally important? They are good, they are great, they add value, yet they distract you from the one thing. When Jesus went to visit Martha and Mary, Martha was trying to serve, cook and serve, be hospitable to Jesus. And here was Mary seated at the foot of Jesus, listening to Jesus teach. After a while, the Bible said that Martha actually came into the room to ask Jesus whether he didn't care that her sister was not helping in making the food and serving the guests. So which Jesus responded to her and said, Martha, you are anxious for too many things. He said, Mary had chosen the best part, which cannot be taken from her. Now, when you take 2 steps back and you look at that story properly, you will realize that, if you have guests, you should feed them, especially when your guest is Jesus. And he said he wanted to eat. Because I have a feeling that Martha would have asked, Lord Jesus, would you like to eat some lunch? And Jesus had said yes. So what did Jesus expect Martha to do at that point when he's the guest and he had indicated that he would eat? Shouldn't the food be made for him? So what Martha was doing was great. It was important. Jesus had to eat. Think about it. If Jesus came to your house, will you not give him food? But here was Mary seated at the foot of Jesus, just listening to him teach, imbibing or chewing or, taking in the words of life that truly matter when all is said and done. So when Martha came to Jesus to complain that Mary was not helpful, Jesus actually said to Martha that Mary had chosen the best thing. The question will be, why is sitting at the foot of Jesus better than cooking for Jesus? Both of them were trying to cater to the master, isn't it? I think because in the scheme of things where God is concerned, what really that builds is not the physical food, it is the spiritual food. And I guess Jesus had looked beyond the fact that, they were serving him food, to look at the fact that the revelation or whatever it was he was teaching at that point was something that Mary could take along, build her life and build other people. And here was Martha slaving to just make a dish for people to eat once and never remember again. So when we're talking about distractions, one of the first and very important points that we need to note is the fact that we must be able to discern between solutions and distractions. Because sometimes they are disguised as solution. Let's go back to our story. Martha was cooking for Jesus. That's a great solution. To be able to have the King of Kings come into my home and I have to make my special jollof rice for him. It's something that is, it should actually be recorded in a special place in the Bible that I cooked for the Lord and Master. But in the sight of God, what was important to matter was not as important. So how do you discern between distraction? And when I'm talking about distraction, remember, I'm not talking about the things that take you away from the path of God. I'm talking about the things that they add value in your path to God, but for your season and where you are, they are not essential. So the first big thing you must know is that you must know that distraction and solutions may look alike, but they are not exactly the same. So the question is, in the many things that you are doing right now, what is a distraction and what is a solution? I get asked to come and speak in so many places these days that it is just, it's amazing to think that there were years that nobody would even remember that you existed, and now practically every week someone wants you to come and speak. I've had to take 2 steps back to ask myself, what will suffer if you take up on this speaking engagement? And that thing that will suffer, should it suffer? I've had to ask myself those questions. So I'm learning to turn down stuff, that otherwise I would have jumped at. Because when people say come and speak, it's validating. For me, it is validating to see people see your gift and they see that you're good at what you're doing and they're asking you to come. But I'm also quickly learning, and fortunately or unfortunately, it's not Jesus that is telling me that one is better than the other. It's my body that is telling me that I need to slow down. So for instance, I used to be that person who would have to come to work every single day. Even though I also work Saturdays and Sundays, I come every single day. Sometimes not because I have something really important to do at work, but because my mindset says if you are not in the office, the work is not getting done. But because I'm now beginning to discern between good and God, or discern between distractions and solutions, I've had to force myself to take one day off in which I just stay at home. I still get work done, but I don't have to move my physical location. I just stay at home, and if I'm working and I feel drowsy, I shut down the laptop, I go to bed, or I watch some TV, just so that I can say to myself that I have that one day where I unwind. Because if I don't do that, what will happen is that I continue to be uptight, and then it begins to impact upon the bottom line that I'm rushing to the office to deal with on a daily basis. So the first thing that I said you need to take a very good look at is to be able to discern for yourself what is good and what is God, or what is a solution or a distraction. Because 9 times out of 10, they look so much alike that you may not be able to discern them. The other thing that you must take time to think about is, what is your obedience quotient like? Because look, in God, our default mode ought to be obedience. Is the highest priority of our lives, to be obedient to the last order. I was talking here about, I don't know whether it was in a show that I just did, that I was talking about how I served with the military as a paramilitary staff for 1 year when I was observing my National Youth Service Corps. And one of the things that I learned very fast when I got to the barracks was that you obey the last order. And what that meant was, if your last order was 6 months ago, that is the order you continue to push until a fresh one is given. With God, obedience ought to be our default mode. And I find that every time I get distracted by good from God, is because that my obedience level is dropped. So I look at it and I'm like, well, it looks like God is good. Even if it's not God speaking it to me, the thing is, it will help another. And since it will help another, it can't be that bad. Only for me to get into the flow of that thing, to realize that because I got in the flow of that thing, the one that God had truly called me to do, I'm now struggling with, or I'm not able to deliver on. So remember, I said that you need to learn the difference between God and good, or between solutions and distractions. And I also said that you need to check your obedience level. What is your obedience level like? Someone is wondering, how do I know what my obedience level is like? If you are able to do whatever God has asked you to do and do it immediately, not subject to committees, not subject to logic, not subject to thinking it through. Just stepping out and doing what God has asked you to do. That's usually portrays how quick you are to respond to the instruction. Usually is an indicator of how high your obedience level is. So the question is, why should I not be distracted? Or what is it that I need to be aware of so that I will not give way to distraction? What are the things that can happen to me if I allow distraction take root? The first thing that can happen to you, something I call the side effects of distraction, is that they slow you down. They reduce your speed and your pace. Because the Bible says, do not be deceived, God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth, he reapeth. I hear people talk a lot about multitasking, and I used to be one of those people who thought that I could multitask. But I have found that it's a major myth. It doesn't exist, because you cannot give your 100% attention to two things at the same time. No, you just don't have the capacity. Neither do I have that capacity. So every time you allow something to distract you, they slow you down on the journey. So maybe you were supposed to get there in December because you allowed your thoughts to distract you, because you allowed your emotions to distract you, because you allowed other people's expectations to distract you. You find out that your speed and your pace slows down considerably. The second side effect of distraction is they delay you. They eat up your time and they keep you at the same spot. And again, remember that we're not talking about bad things. We're talking about good things, but yet they are distractive. Let's say, for instance, you decided that you were going to save $1 million in 2016, which is a great dream, by the way. And if you are able to achieve it, please let me know how you did it. Yes. So let's say you decided that you are going to save $1 million in 2016. And you started to work towards saving that amount of money. So what do you do if you are a life planner or you are a goal setter like me? You want to break it down. So how much do you need to save on a monthly basis to be able to save up $1 million or 1 million naira? You need to save a minimum of 80 to be able to save 1 million in a year, a minimum of 80. So you decide, okay, I will save 80. You do the math. Okay, what do I earn? And you say, okay, I earn 160. And all this while I've been spending 120. So I'm going to cut down my spend so that I can save 80 every month to build up to that 1 million that I want to save at the end of 12 months. Great plan. So you start. First month, second month, third month, fourth month. It was not in the works for you to buy a car. But one day someone shows up with a car. It's a great buy. I mean, the cars probably would have been going for, let's say 40 million naira. And, someone is offering it to you at 10 million. And you're thinking, oh, this is a good buy. I have some other money there. But the thing is, the money you had kept for play, which a car is not enough to pay for the car. So you decide to break what it is that you were trying to save to plow it into the car. Now, getting that car is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. The only problem is, in the scheme of things of saving 1 million and buying that car, you have just pulled out your money and put it into what we call a depreciating asset. So you buy a car and you feel good for 6 months. It feels nice to be able to say, that's my car. Then after 6 months, it begins to rattle if you have roads like we have in Nigeria. And then you begin to realize, I should have saved my money. So yes, you didn't do anything bad with it. It's not like you went to do drugs with the money. But you bought a car that you probably didn't need because you already had 2 cars and they were functional. So that's how one great thing or one good thing can distract you from one great thing. So you need to be sure that they don't delay you, because what will not happen in that case of the savings is that you may, after 6 months, you may come back to the realization that I have wasted my time, and then you begin to save again. But the thing is, you went back to saving after 6 months, which meant that you have lost 6 months of the time in which you would have saved 1 million. What that means is you are now, you have now delayed your arrival at your destination. The third side effect of distraction is that they consume your energy and your resources. I find that every time I try to do more than 4 things, one of the things that happens is that I make mistakes. I make mistakes that, if I have to come back and correct, cost me more than if I had just given myself time to finish one task before I moved on to the other task. So you find that they consume your energy, they consume your resources. Why? The money or the strength or the energy or the resources that are meant for the journey, because you are now deploying it in 4 different places. It's akin to what we mean when we say we're burning candles at both ends. Find yourself burning candles at different ends, and therefore, rather than growing, you are depreciating. The 5th side effect of distraction is you suffer the risk, God forbid here, you suffer the risk of being disqualified, because when you get distracted, say you are running a marathon and you get distracted in the 3rd hurdle or in the third round or whatever, or maybe you're running a 5K and at 3K you get distracted because someone by the side of the road was peddling an iPad Pro that you would probably have spent $1,000 for, but you have someone is saying to you, come and pay $500. So you stop to haggle, and before you know what is happening, you were in the lead before, people overtake you, and they now arrive at the end of the race before you. Now, what is it that the disqualification? You've stopped. You're not supposed to stop. You have stopped in a race where you are not supposed to stop. So that could earn you a disqualification. Or maybe that's not even the rule. You could stop if you wanted. The only problem is, if you had gotten there in the first 10, you would have earned 5 million naira or dollars or whatever. But because you stopped, you gave your spot up, and because of that, you got disqualified from receiving the prize. So the question will now be, what do I do? What are the things that I need to be careful about so that I don't fall prey to good distractions or distractions that are disguised as good? 1, know your seasons. I always when I talk to young women or mothers who have young families who are trying to make ends meet, I usually say to them, know your seasons. The season when you have children, say you have 3 children all under the age of 10, it's not the season that you take up a job that makes you travel all over the place. Because what will happen is, God forbid, you will sacrifice the destiny and the future of your children on the altar of a great job. Yes, the job will bring you great earning, but the question is, what happens when you have to deploy those same earnings to take care of your children because you had abandoned them, quote and unquote, to do a good job? Now, I'm not trying to make anyone feel guilty because they are trying to pursue a career. All I'm saying is, sometimes the things we pursue, like the Bible said, even though they are lawful, are not expedient for us in the season that we are. The second thing that you want to know, or you want to try and do, is you want to be very clear on what you can delegate. What can you delegate to other people? Because within your processes of actualizing your dream, there are things that even if you don't do them, others can do for you. As a matter of fact, in the 80-20 principle or rule, the Pareto principle, it is said that if someone else in your team can do something 80% as much as you can do, then it is time for you to delegate that task to them. so that it frees you to look at the things that only you can do. Some of us get distracted because we're trying to do everything by ourselves. Now I understand it because I have been an employer of labor. I understand that there are people that, sometimes the reason why we keep piling our plates with the things that we're piling our plates with is because some of the people we could have delegated this task to don't have the capacity or the discipline to deliver as and when due. And so we decide to pile them on our plate. How about you delegate and then tell them the consequence if they are not able to meet up? That will help to train them, and that will take some weight off of your back. The other thing that you must, be aware of is you want to be aware of the things that are urgent but are not important. One of the things that I believe Jesus was saying to Martha was that yes, eating may be urgent, but it may not be that important in the scheme of things of getting to heaven. So do you know what is important as against what is urgent in your life? Because I find people running after things that don't matter. Things like, let me not go there because it will look like I'm judging. But there are things that we get ourselves into that really, really, when you take time and you take a look at your life, they don't matter. They don't matter. And if you will just make peace with the fact that they don't matter, then you will be less distracted as you go along. The other thing you want to be aware of is that you also need to be able to discern the things that make you less efficient. I am very fast to cut out anything that I can do, but in doing them, I don't do them as well, or even if I do them as well as the next person, they slow me down in all the other things that I'm doing. I like to just let them go so that I can concentrate on what it is that I have, I find that I'm able to do better. But beyond all of this, which are for your day-to-day running, how about you learn, what is good and what isn't good? Or what is good and what is God every time? Do you know what is good and what is God? Can you discern between them? I'll give you a story to illustrate this. In the book of Judges, there's a story about the Gibeonites and Joshua. Joshua was the judge of Israel at the time. He was the one that took over from Moses. And there were these Gibeonites who were from a city not too far from where Joshua and his people were camped, who had heard about how the children of Israel had come to take all the land of Canaan. So they went out and they disguised themselves like they had been coming from a long distance and came to deceive Joshua into entering into a treaty with them. Meanwhile, God had expressly said to the children of Israel, do not enter a treaty with anyone in the land that I have sworn to give to you. So what should Joshua have done, or Joshua have done? The Bible said he did not inquire of the Lord. Sometimes we fall into destructive tendencies because we did not ask God. Yes, I know that your obedience level is high. I know you want to quickly obey, but sometimes, how about if you're not clear on the processes, you go back and ask God to clarify for you. If you do that, you would find that every time you'll be able to know the difference between good and God. Another thing you want to try and be aware of is that you must know the difference between what is to do for now and what is to do for the future. About 10 years ago, God gave me an idea and I started to work on that idea. And I kept working on it. But one of the things that I found was every time I brought out that idea to try and implement it, I would hit a brick wall. So I would have to recoil again. And I kept going like that and kept going like that. This idea finally launched last month. And it launched effortlessly, ultimately, when it launched. Why? Because it had taken 10 years. And yes, even though it had taken 10 years, it was time. And because it was time, God was able to just help me maneuver it. And everything is running smoothly, even though I say so myself. So you need to be able to discern between the things you must do now and the things that if you don't do now, nothing will go bad. So discern between what you must do now in this moment and what you can keep for the future. The things you can keep for the future will include things that you're not exactly 100% skilled at yet. Things you still need a bit of preparation and education for. Keep them and work on those ones that you have to absolutely deal with now. The other thing that you want to try and do is find your foot soldiers. God started to speak to me last month about the apostolic mantle and how He's called me to, and He's graced me with the ability to discern His ideas and the ability to pioneer them. But He was saying to me that most of the ideas He had given me to pioneer are now suffering because He's giving me more things to do. And while He's giving me more things to do, all the things that I should have given to foot soldiers to run with, I have held them back, and because of that, they are not growing. So He gave me the charge to go and look for my foot soldiers. He gave me the parameters with which I would recognize them. And I'm at that place right now where I'm trying to make sure that some of the ideas that I have run and they have been structured and can run, they already have a template or a system of running. Those ones I can easily commit to new people or to commit to foot soldiers so that I can concentrate on doing that which only I can do right now. So recognize that some of these things you must give up to your foot soldiers to deal with. Another thing you want to be aware of is the fact that you cannot save the world. You can try, but I promise you, it's not given to you to save the world. There are some things that will need to be done around you, but you are not called to do them. If you know someone who might be able to do them, pass it on to them. If you don't know, don't begin to feel guilty like, oh, I didn't do it, so therefore I'm a failure. I had to deal with that because one of the things that I suffer is something I call the Messianic syndrome. I want to save anything and everyone. But I have learned quickly, because I got burnt a number of times, that that's not my department. I cannot save everybody. So I'd rather focus on what I have been given to do and do it well than go into all the things that I have not been given to do and be sloppy at them. Finally, you must learn to prioritize. What is your vision? What is paramount? What is your foundational thing that you must do if all the other things will work well? We've been talking about distractions, and I'm talking about the good kind of distractions. The ones that are not exactly bad. They're not from the devil, but they slow us down or they stop us from doing the things that God has called us to. How many of these do we give in to on a daily basis? I know that I'm the one bringing this show to you. I can assure you that I still fall, in this regard. So it takes an intentionality to be able to look at these things and say, oh, this is a distraction. It's not what I should be pushing in this season of my life. Till next week when I'll come your way again, have you ordered your DVD yet to recreate your own birthing stool experience? You need to do that. The testimonies have not stopped coming. What are you going to do with it? And if you were at the Return of the Helper conference, I'd like to hear from you what you're doing with what you have birthed. It's extremely important that we push these things to a conclusive end. Till next week when I'll come your way with another, I'm believing God, impactful topic. Remember that when you discover purpose, you live powerful. God bless you.
Thank you for listening to Nevertheless. For more information and resources, call 0813-360-2883 or send an email to bidemi@bidemimark-mordi.com. Don't forget that when you discover your purpose, you will live powerful.